usually that means that they're going to run soft for Q2. So that's with sticking to what we thought already. Soft tire is going to be the desirable one to start on. That's really what we're looking at for Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bull. Well, the Verstappen's Red Bull. Albon's been struggling a bit in the other one, but should still come through Q1. Q2 is the one that he'll have to put a better lap in. But yeah, it's going to be the soft tyres. Here's the flat.
Copy, we'll do that.
Check what? I didn't actually catch that. Didn't sound like it was an earth-shatteringly interesting radio message for Charles Leclerc on his out lap. Medium tyres, they take a little bit longer to warm up. Temperature's still cool, 22 degrees, 31 degree track temperature. This is the sound of Sebastian Vettel halfway round the out lap then. Up to turn 10, and then it's a bit of a run down through 11 and 12, which is just sort of flat out, slight swerve to the right. Then 12 is a left-hander that brings you into a very tricky braking zone that Vettel's just gone into down the gears to turn 13. We've seen a lot of lock-ups there earlier on, and throughout practice in general, very easy to lock up in turn 13 and undo a lot of good work. Verstappen had a spin there earlier.
Copy, we'll do that.
That's going to be an action zone for the day.
Why don't they do that more in modern tracks?
What, make the corners hard?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like the turning and brake. Everyone knows braking and turning is tricky. So why not do that more often?
Well, it's funny you say that because I spoke to a track designer at Stetson a few years ago.
Braking and turning for the
final corner, and that's exactly why that corner was laid out like that, because it's notoriously a hard thing to do. It's a technical corner, very, very tricky into the final corner of the lovely Stetson track in Norfolk. And that's why it was designed as it is, because it's difficult and it's actually a place to separate the men from the boys. And turn 13 is one of those places here where it's very, very easy to make a mistake, and if you can just get that right, you find a load of time. And there's not too many corners on this Sochi circuit that are technically that challenging.
14.5 minutes left on the clock. Sebastian Vettel is the sound you can hear coming into the back straight that takes him down to that turn 13, running very wide at pretty much every corner at the moment. Vettel, he's on the medium compounder tyre. Everybody else so far has gone out on soft. The Mercedes, the Red Bulls, the Renaults haven't left the pit lane yet. Everybody else is on circuit. As Vettel goes super deep, whoa, slides, wasn't a million miles away.
Your rewrite
No, technically that's 4-second gap to Leclerc. It's a good gap for the tour.
Kept it out the barriers, so Vettel on the medium tyres, yielding him slightly less grip than his rivals on the soft, but a bit too hot into 13, and big mistake there, and he'll have to back out of this one as his teammate's coming through and is going to set the early benchmark time. It's a 1 minute 33.6 for Charles Leclerc.
Will we see different runs from teams and drivers because the tyres can last a little bit longer? We're going to see them going out earlier in this, maybe not in the battle of the pole, but in the battle to get out of Q1.
Ultimately, I think it will be, the teams might try and do a fast, slow, fast, but I think it's going to be a one-lapper. Because if you do fast, slow, fast, the first lap should be the best still, and you're carrying fuel for a slow lap and then another fast lap, and that could be a tenth of a second. So we know how close the midfield battles are. In fact, the front battle as well looks very, very close. So whilst you're dialing in on a first run, the teams might do a fast, slow, even just to really try and dial in, get the driver comfortable with the car and everything. But then when it comes down to the end of this session, in 12.5 minutes time, I think it'll be just a one lap.
Leclerc quickest on a 33.6 at the moment, 8 tenths clear of Carlos Sainz, who is a 10th clear of Lando Norris. Then it's Grosjean.
so the multi A7 position 1. Multi A7 position 1.
Second place for the Haas team, a tenth of a second ahead of Carlos Sainz. So Haas looking for a strong weekend. I'm not actually sure who we'll see out with the Williamses actually, because it's going to be a bit of a tight one. Maybe out of the super strong.
They've been very anonymous so far through practice. Last Stroll, you'd say, if we don't know who's going to be out, it's normally a favourite to be out in Q1 if the Racing Point are there or thereabouts. He's currently 8th ahead of Giovinazzi and Gasly, and then just the 2 Williams. But he's got a big chance because Racing Point, they look alright as well. It's anyone's guess. Of course, Kvyat not starting this session will just alleviate a bit of pressure. We're basically going to see the Williams out and 2 others.
Alex Albon starting a flying lap now on his soft tyres, coming down towards turn 2. He's the man who needs to find a little bit of pace. He didn't have a great run in the third practice session earlier on today. Didn't really set representative times yesterday either, so not, definitively off the pace, but we just haven't quite seen Albon yet. Here he comes through the first sector, and if he's about half a second away in sector 1, then he's doing okay, and he is about half a second away, so reasonable first sector for Alex Albon. Still 2/3 of the lap to go.
Ferraris are quick in that first sector as a general rule of thumb. And that's what we're going to see throughout the entire hour, really. Even when we get to Q3, that's where they've had the edge on Mercedes, and then it's can the Mercedes claw it back and more through sector 2 and particularly sector 3, where they've been strong. But right now, the Mercedes are just on outlaps. They just need to get into the top 15 and should do that comfortably. Albon down the back straight in the middle sector. He's 8 tenths away, it's not another 3 tenths to Leclerc. But Magnussen's only half a second away around the entire lap, and now Albon's backed off. So he'll have to go for another one.
Quite a bit of traffic there, Alex Albon. I think he backed off. And there's a spin for Robert Kubica as well, so maybe that's why he backed off too, because there was a yellow flag down at turn 13 where Albon was.
Yeah, that's why. It didn't look like traffic impeded him, but we couldn't see Kubica at that time. There was a yellow flag there, and that is why Albon had to back off. The lap wasn't anything too special at the time, though. That would have put him round about Sainz and Magnussen, really. But Kubica then returns with Williams to the pit. and he'd done already a flying lap, and what's the second? 1.1 seconds away from Russell on that flying lap.
So Kubica returns to the pit lane, less than 10 minutes to go. The Mercedes are out on track now, as is Verstappen in the Red Bull. Of all of them, it is, well, Hamilton and Verstappen pretty much matching each other in the first sector. Bottas is 3 sets adrift. This is what happened to Robert Kubica down into turn 13. Not even a braking and turning issue there, just not really braking.
Well, not braking hard enough early enough, and that was the issue. Normally we've seen so many left front lockups as you brake too hard too early, and as you're arcing to the left with the right hander, you can have a lockup. But for Kubica there, didn't brake hard enough early enough, had to do a lot more later on, and then locked the right front.
Hamilton across the line to go quickest for 1 minute 33.230, a tenth quicker than Max Verstappen and 3 tenths quicker than Charles Leclerc. Bottas fourth, half a second adrift, so good lap there from Hamilton, but this is only the first part of qualifying, and Leclerc is on the medium compounded tyre, so there's that to consider as well. Magnussen in 5th, Sainz, Norris, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Perez the top 10, although as I say that Hulkenberg jumps up into 6th position with a very good lap, and that puts him clear of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo by 3 tenths of a second. Hulkenberg had the measure of Ricciardo in both practice sessions yesterday. In practice 3 this morning, he was ahead again. So Hulkenberg looking very, very strong in Russia.
Yeah, looking good. Still without a drive for next year as well. So he's beating Ricciardo all weekend will be a very timely performance for Nico Hulkenberg. Ricciardo, 7-time race winner, who's had the edge over him over the course of the year. But Hulkenberg's looking good. Magnussen's up in 5th in the Haas as well, and Haas have been a team that we've typically been saying would be going out in Q1 over the last few races. They've really struggled as the year's gone on, but this weekend on qualifying pace certainly they look right in the mix to be back towards the best of the rest. So that's why there's more pressure on the likes of the Alfa Romeos, Pierre Gasly, who got his first lap all wrong coming out of the final corner, and this is how it happened. Just a big oversteer and had to correct it out wide and lost a lot of time. That's why he's down in 15th ahead of only the Williams, and here's his radio.
Big rear issue.
There's a big rear issue, he says, so potentially struggling out there, Pierre Gasly. So Verstappen second quickest. Albon hasn't done a lap yet. He's improving again now. His first sector is once again decent, only about a tenth away from his teammate. He's coming through the middle sector now. Charles Leclerc is about to set the fastest first sector of anyone. So that's Ferrari doing another lap on his medium tyres. Albon through the middle sector now, and he is going to be up by half a second on Pierre Gasly. But oh, and he's spun and he's in the wall. Alex Albon spins it down at turn 13, backs it into the wall. His qualifying is over. Red flag is out. Albon looks down at his steering wheel and will be very, very disappointed with how this weekend is panning out. He's gone backwards into the barrier.
Big rear issue.
Yep, we've got a red flag and a session delay. Albon in the wall.
Can't be much more than that. He's starting 18th as it stands without a proper time on the board, so he'll take more components, but he won't drop any further back on the grid. What a torrid weekend Alex Albon is having, and that really just sums it up. Into hot for turn 13. Looked like he was just going to run clean off the track, and it's a moment not dissimilar to Vettel on that first lap the Ferrari man had. Here we go, on board with him, down to 13. And just turned it in, and the rear stepped away from it, and they thumped into the wall, and a fair amount of damage to the rear wing, and a lot more in there as well. Here's his radio. You okay? Yeah.
Well, he's okay. The car isn't. And that is the end of his session. Tell you what, it's just been such a tricky weekend for him. And there's another man that the seat's not secure for next year. Max Verstappen's been very, very quick all weekend, currently up in second place, and Albon has looked Gasly's start of the season spec, really, or maybe even slightly more struggling than Gasly was as well, dare I say it, this weekend so far.
and that's not the way that he would have wanted to end up. And the pressure only grows as well. Only his fourth race.
Stay positive.
What he needs going into the track like the vehicle where he's never been before, and he's got to start, you know, he's only got 3 races left to finish the Still has to get his head around that.
Home race for Red Bull Honda as well. For Honda. He had a big crash in China and managed to have a great race drive from the pit lane to the points in a Toro Rosso. So he's still got tomorrow to try and salvage something. The problem is, he looks like he's comfortable in the car all weekend long. So yeah, it's difficult to see him taking a huge amount of confidence in the drive tomorrow unless he can suddenly find something on the car and get really confident with it. And then yes, Suzuka's a real confidence track. You need to have absolute faith in the car, know exactly what's going on, and a driver's track as well. It's fast flowing and the walls are pretty close and it's punishing. So it's not the sort of race that you or sort of weekend you want to have. You're absolutely right, Andrew, before the Japanese Grand Prix. But right now in Russia, Albon trudges away from his car, and well, that's a bit more pressure off some of the other runners as well. Kvyat not starting, the 2 Williams will be out, and now Albon will be out, actually behind them. So there's only one spot up for grabs really to be eliminated in this first part of qualifying. At the moment, it's being filled by Sebastian Vettel. So he's got a little bit of pressure on this second run, not outrageous pressure, so still be able to get.
Let us know if you're doing double cool down.
Traffic. Double. Okay.
Sebastian Vettel. So
he should be able to get through Q2 on one set, but the other good thing is for Vettel, first of all, he's only got to beat one other car, and secondly, the tyres are, you can get a couple of laps out of them. So now if you're Ferrari, send Vettel up straight away, a couple of flying laps, even if he comes across a back mark or a yellow flag, he can just pull down and go for another one. So he should be absolutely fine. And Ferrari look like they're the quickest team out there. So, I mean, pretty inconceivable that Vettel will be the slowest of the 18 in the main field.
Andrew, could you just remind me the situation regarding Red Bull and Hulkenberg? Have Red Bull said anything regarding Hulkenberg?
Helmut Marko, the Red Bull Motorsport advisor who basically decides the driver choices, he said last weekend in Singapore that the choice for the second seat Red Bull is only between Albon and Gasly.
That was it. I knew he'd been sort of written off somehow.
Yeah, and they've Christian Horner decides, but he's also said that they're going to stick within their talent pool choice. It's actually not an easy choice for them because Albon had looked really good at the Toro Rosso. He's looked good from time to time in the Red Bull, but as Joey was saying, he's had a terrible weekend in Russia.
Red flag, keep the delta positive.
Oh, barrier.
Who's in the barrier?
Albon, the barrier's just gone backwards.
Released from the main team, and then Red Bull entirely, and that's the benchmark that they're looking good against. Daniel Kvyat, who's not out there at all right now, and it's all about your benchmark in Formula 1. You could look absolutely great if you're in a really good car and teammates with an average to poor driver. I'm not saying that Kvyat is, but you will look very good if you're alongside a driver that's not very good. And if you're up against a driver that's absolutely top line, you can be a good driver but look very bad. So it's all about your comparison, and that's basically why Gasly's now looking much better than he was in the Red Bull, because the comparison is no longer Max Verstappen, it's Daniel Kvyat, and that's the blunt truth basically. But I think it's a mad one, this Red Bull needing to stick with one of their own young drivers. I get it, they've had a lot of great young drivers, Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, Max Verstappen, but if they don't have an absolute top-line young driver coming through, you've got to put the best driver in the car, surely. Nico Hulkenberg's a free agent. And I'm not saying, I'm not jumping the gun because Albon's got another couple of races to prove himself. He's still got a lot to prove. I'm not writing him off at all. I would write off Pierre Gasly from getting back up there for next year anyway. I don't see Kvyat going there, and they pretty much ruled him out as well. So it's a bit of an odd situation for a top team to be almost sort of having their hands tied by themselves to take one of their young drivers.
I agree. I actually had this conversation with Christian Horner myself a few years ago. Remember in 2014 when it was when Alonso was leaving Ferrari, Vettel was moving to Ferrari, and Red Bull needed someone to fill Vettel's seat, and they took Pierre. And the next race, that all happened in Japan. The next race was Russia. I was saying to Christian Horner in Russia, why on earth aren't you Fernando Alonso? Because
you get permission if he got the Red Bull seat.
No, but and he was like peddling the same line about we'll stick with our junior program. Danny Kvyat's the real deal. Just you see it. I thought, what against Fernando Alonso?
The thing is for Red Bull, when Vettel was coming through, when Ricciardo was coming through, there was the Red Bull Young Driver Program was the thing. Now it's not. Mercedes have had their own Young Driver Program. Ocon came through. Russell's come through, the Formula 2 champion, with Mercedes. Ferrari have got their own. Leclerc came through with Ferrari. They've got other drivers. Robert Schwartzman, the F3 champion, is with Ferrari. So Red Bull
Binotto was there congratulating him after he won the championship today.
Exactly. So Red Bull are no longer having the absolute pick of the bunch from the junior categories, whereas they were the team to have a young driver scheme back in the sort of 5-10 years ago.
But they don't have anyone now. In Formula 2.
They do, but not in Formula 2. No, they've got young drivers, but no one that looks like they're F1 ready in the slightest. And that means that you surely have to start looking at other people that are very good, that are not one of your young drivers, basically.
Yeah.
But in all of it, let's not completely rule out Albon because he has had encouraging times as well.
6 minutes left then, the session has restarted, and Kubica is heading out, as is Sebastian Vettel. So sensible from Ferrari, they want to get straight out and on with it, and he should be able to get a clear lap in before he then, unless he ends up with a little bit of traffic here and there. He's gone on the soft compound tyre as opposed to the medium that he was running beforehand, and
he needed to.
Yeah,
you couldn't be going back out now on a used medium and guarantee yourself to get through, even though the odds are pretty high and he may well have still been able to. Right now, no risk. Vettel is in a potential race-winning car there, and he needs to just make sure he's in the top 15, which is beating the two Williams and someone else that's going to be going out in 5 minutes' time.
Vettel coming through the final sequence of corners, round the right-hander that takes him around the back of the paddock, past the pit lane entry on his right-hand side, and now away he goes. He's got to a halfway reasonable lap time from Vettel will be absolutely fine. Here he comes across the line now. Start his lap through the flat-out right-hander of turn 1, down towards turn 2. Such a long run from the start line down to the braking zone, some 13 seconds at full throttle. And then into the left-hander of 3. And he's managed to, no one else has left the pits yet either. I wondered if he might get a bit scuppered with drivers on their out lap, but he's had enough time that he's going to get an absolutely open road.
And the rest of them are all waiting for just one lap then. They've done a couple of flying laps most of the rest of the field, but now it's just going to come down to one flying lap at the end where they're all going to head out, and again, just one driver and the two Williams will be out of it at the end.
Here's an interesting question from Amit Mandalia. I wonder if the history of previous drivers who have come through and been dropped by the Red Bull driver program is making young drivers reluctant in wanting to be tied to them. Is there anything in that, do you think?
No, if you're a young driver, you have to be, well, not necessarily with Red Bull, but you have to be in a young driver's kit.
Now there are other options.
Yeah, you could go to Red Bull, or you could go to Mercedes, or you could go to Ferrari. The benefit of Red Bull is there's 4 seats in Formula 1. Verstappen went to Red Bull because he could get into a Toro Rosso much sooner than anyone else. So that's the main benefit. And you take the hit, you back yourself if you're a young driver in Red Bull.
Trio in front MD8.
Across the line, and Vettel will jump up the order. In fact, he might even go quicker here on the soft tyres. He does. That's a decent lap actually from Vettel to go 2 tenths quicker than Hamilton managed on the soft compound of tyre. Everybody else is now leaving the pit lane and heading out to do their last lap. Andrew, did you have a comment on that, on the Red Bull young driver thing?
I can't say, actually. I know something.
So you put your hand up and then have realised you can't say it?
I know something which I'm not allowed to talk about, so we'll have to drop that. The short answer is yes, it is making drivers think
The short answer is
Red Bull.
you know of a driver who's effectively turned Red Bull down.
I'm not going to say any more, but I will say that I know that drivers are thinking about Red Bull.
Interesting. So they're choosing a Ferrari or a Mercedes young drivers team, or they're just choosing no young drivers team?
They're worried about what the effect being at Red Bull could have on their career because of the way Red Bull manage the young drivers.
But the choice is, if the choice is Red Bull or nothing.
I'm just saying yes is the answer to the question.
Yeah, but if the choice is Red Bull or nothing, you've got to take Red Bull. If the choice is Red Bull or Mercedes or Ferrari, then you've got a discussion. So we've got a bit of racing on the outlap here. A Toro Rosso going side by side with, I thought that was it's George Russell trying to get position out with Pierre Gasly. So they were going racing side by side. Now they're all backing off.
Sebastian box. And look after these tires. All the cars around in outlap.
Pierre Gasly, because Russell will be out, Kubica will be out, Albon will be out, and Fiat will be out. So it's only Pierre Gasly that is out at the moment. Giovinazzi is the man on the ball in 15th place, Lance Stroll 14th, Raikkonen 13th. This is George Russell's radio.
Guys, we're not learned from last week.
Guys, we not learned from last week. Russell got caught out with traffic last week in Singapore, and he's just been going wheel to wheel with Gasly for a couple of laps. So he's a bit frustrated there, Russell.
Well, for an outlap, and they struggled with tyre temps when they were messing around in a load of traffic, and I think that's what Russell is saying against his team. Why are we going out on all the traffic? Because all the slowing down to get some space, your tyre temps drop and you struggle to get a clean lap when you need to do it right at the death in qualifying.
50 seconds left on the clock. And Vettel is quickest, 2 tenths quicker than Hamilton, 3 tenths quicker than Verstappen, about 6 tenths quicker than Charles Leclerc, whose lap time was set on the medium compounded tyre. Verstappen, Leclerc, Vettel and Hulkenberg all in the pits, so that's Hulkenberg's fairly comfortable, to be honest.
Yeah, very comfortable. Gasly's not done a great first sector either, not a personal best for him, and actually slower than George Russell for Pierre Gasly in that first.
Just remember your time is safe.
He only needs to find half a tenth though to go ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo.
Lando Norris goes up to 7th position. His teammate Carlos Sainz across the line goes up to 6th place, quicker than Norris. And then it's Grosjean across the line to complete the top 10. Magnussen is in 7th at the moment, jumps in front of Carlos Sainz. But here comes Pierre Gasly. This is the man to watch, and he goes into 11th place, knocks Giovinazzi into the drop zone. George Russell across the line to improve on his previous lap time to go 1.1 seconds quicker. Stroll's all a bit messy coming through the final corner. Gets up to 11th place though. Looks like he might be the one to make it through. It's Giovinazzi who's now got to try and get a good lap in, down in 16th place. His teammate Kimi Raikkonen is on the bubble too. Sergio Perez is 14th, Ricciardo's 13th, so it could end up being Gasly messy from Raikkonen. And Raikkonen is just there in 15th. It's going to be him or Giovinazzi that will be eliminated from qualifying. Giovinazzi about to come around the final corner, and he's 15th. So there we go. Kimi Raikkonen out of Q1, along with George Russell, Robert Kubica, Alex Albon, and Daniel Kvyat, who didn't take part. So Raikkonen all out of shape at the final corner.
So many drivers struggling with oversteer in that final corner, and Raikkonen a little bit more than most, and basically that's what's cost him.
We are boxed this lap.
And we are safely through to Q2.
Teammate once again, and the only driver really out of position and out of that qualifying.
Again, good, as you say, in his Raikkonen's radio. Just a bleep from Raikkonen there then. So we're just getting a replay of his final corner. Just a bit of oversteer at the apex.
Yeah, and it's only a really short run on the exit as well, so if the run was longer, Raikkonen would have lost a lot more time, as it was. Not too bad, but with the time so close, that sort of mistake there cost you. It's just an oversteer coming through, had to correct it twice, and Raikkonen heading out then. But Alfa Romeo got 3 tenths to Pierre Gasly as well, so the car not suited at all for this circuit, it seems.
Odd one, really.
Yeah, they looked good at times in recent races as well. Giovinazzi's been in the points for the last 2, should have been in Belgium, and right now they're just this weekend really struggling. Only half a second clear of Russell Williams.
Yeah, who was 1.1 seconds up the road from Kubica. Vettel quickest in the end, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Leclerc, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Sainz, Norris, Hulkenberg in top 10 at the end of the session. Grosjean, Stroll, Perez, Gasly, Giovinazzi was top.
Yeah, looks like just a bit optimistic braking for turn 13 and then gets away from you from there, snapping it. But coming to be a very good lap until that point. Okay, so cars eliminated a Raikkonen, Russell, Kubica, Albon and Pierre.
Of constantly changing drivers because they're not capable of matching the lead driver, which is quite a nice comparison actually. I don't know if the argument in the sort of 94-95 Benetton era is that maybe the other drivers weren't in the same equipment, but you had Jos Verstappen, you had JJ Leto, I think, did some races alongside Schumacher in 94. Was there one more? Can't remember. Then Martin Brundle though. No, that was 93. Then they brought in Johnny Herbert for 95. It's a reasonable comparison, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, what happened in 94 was that Leto started the season, and then he broke his neck in a crash at Silverstone.
Oh, and he ended up in the tunnel, didn't he?
That was Pedro Lamy.
Oh, my apologies.
And then Jos Verstappen came in, and but they were all about 2 seconds off Schumacher. That was the time, what you're referring to, is Senna went to his death believing that Michael Schumacher was in an illegal car, and illegal software was found in the car, but there was never any. Well, the FIA said there was no proof it had been used, so they got away with it.
Yeah, indeed. But there was, they say, and certainly sort of,
Okay, yeah, have a look at what we can do, but I'm very surprised by how much we're struggling.
As in sort of that 2009 Ferrari, where you bring in Badoer and he's nowhere, then you bring in the man who took pole in Spa, Keller, and he's nowhere compared to Raikkonen either, which was all a bit odd.
It is an interesting question, actually, something that Joan is absolutely right about the benchmark thing, but at the same time, no driver can more than 2 seconds a lap slower than someone else, really. So, or even a second, in terms of absolute potential. Yeah, you have to ask a little bit, should they be saying to themselves, is something else going on here as well as Max Verstappen just being mega? Yeah. Is it more complicated than that? If they're underperforming to this level, why are they underperforming to this level? What's going wrong?
If you're 2 young drivers,
should they be asking themselves more questions than they appear to?
Because if you're 2 young drivers who you quite like in a Toro Rosso and have not done anything dissimilar to what Max Verstappen did in a Toro Rosso kind of thing, come up and then they're nowhere, and then you have to say Gasly, Albon, you're sort of replacing like for like, high potential young driver.
Yeah, and if you're talking about actual direct comparisons, Danny Kvyat was about 2 tenths on average slower than Daniel Ricciardo, who was about 2 tenths in his last season at Red Bull slower than Max Verstappen, right? Yeah. And Albon and Gasly are probably about as quick as Kvyat, or maybe a bit quicker, right? Especially given that Albon came in his first season and acquitted himself pretty well on Kvyat. There's only 4 tenths in gap there from Verstappen back to Kvyat. So why are they more than double that off? Doesn't make sense.
Why are you saying they're more than double that off?
Because they are.
Gasly was.
Gasly was half a second off, actually, on average.
Yeah.
Albon.
Well, so you said 4 tenths and it's half a second, in fact, on average.
Yeah, but we don't know where Albon is yet, do we? But Albon's.
But he's not more than a second off.
Well, he is this weekend.
This weekend he's having a torrid time.
We don't know where he was for the last 3 weekends, because it's not been a.
Singapore was 6 tenths. Direct comparison.
Yeah.
But Albon's not a second off Verstappen. He's going to be at the moment somewhere, and even we can see from Belgium and Monza the practice sessions, he's between sort of 3 tenths and maybe 6-7 tenths. But it's the consistency that he's off. There could be more than meets the eye, and there are definitely things in Formula 1 teams that are more than meets the eye. And Verstappen's got his feet under the table pretty nicely at Red Bull. If they bring new parts to the car, he will get them, of course. if there's something that they find is a little bit better on one car, they will give it to Verstappen. But that happens. But Hamilton is constantly ahead of Valtteri Bottas, really, bar the odd exception. And this weekend, actually, Bottas is looking stronger. And we think Verstappen might be on Hamilton's level. Bottas was proven over many years with Williams to be very, very fast. And quite frankly, he doesn't seem to be quite on Hamilton's level either. So if you take a good midfielder and you take the best drivers in Formula One, they're going to be about 3-4% off, roughly, with the odd flash of a great moments. And Bottas has had great moments as well. And I'm sure Albon would have great moments. Gasly with more time would have great moments. They're all really good drivers, but we're comparing them to a guy that made Ricciardo look not super special last year. He was consistently ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. You know, Ricciardo's ahead of Hulkenberg. The level of Verstappen is very, very high right now.
Very true.
13 minutes left on the clock. Cars pouring out to get underway with the second part of qualifying. It's about the battle to be inside the top 10. The top 10 in the first part were Bottas, Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Sainz, Norris and Hulkenberg. So basically the two McLarens, the two Renaults and a Haas joined the top 5 because Alex Albon will not be out in qualifying for the Russian Grand Prix after crashing in the first part. Standing in here, Valtteri Bottas. Now, he and Hamilton are on the medium tyres. So, does that suggest they don't think they can take pole? I think it does. I think that suggests exactly that. That means they're going to try. They've got an option, don't forget. They're going to run a second set of tyres, and they've got an option to switch to a set of soft tyres. But I think that says to me, Mercedes don't think they can be on pole. Remember, Red Bull take 5 places on the grid, so they don't have to worry about them. They certainly don't have to worry about Albon. So that says to me, they think Ferrari have got this, and they want to start the strategy battle today.
Yeah, and by extension, we can't be on pole, and we probably can't beat Ferrari as a result doing the same thing as them, because we can't pass a Ferrari in the race on track because their straight line speed is so strong. So if we're going to beat them, we have to do something different, and this is it.
Now, if I'm Ferrari, I'd box both my cars now to send them out on mediums. That's what I do. If I'm Ferrari strategist, as soon as I see that, right, you guys come in, you're on mediums, negate that advantage that Mercedes are trying to extract.
Yeah, the only thing is then you damage these tyres you're on, so you can throw away a set of tyres.
Right, but you've done an out lap on a set of softs. If you then go out, do the medium lap, and then put these softs on that you've just taken off but only have an out lap on, if you want to run again on softs, which will be quicker than the medium.
Yeah, heat cycle through the tyres, back in the blankets, what temperature you're turning them back out on. They should easily make the top 10, but you are putting a bit more life.
A lot of oscillations.
Copy, we've seen that. They could do that, or they could just back themselves through the job on the favoured strategy that we all thought would happen. The other thing for Mercedes, of course, they've got a straight line speed deficit, so even if they did qualify on pole, they might have just thought, either way, we're going to be behind by the time we have that long run down to turn 2.
Yeah.
So better to be behind on a different strategy.
Verstappen does 1 minute 33.0 on the soft compound tyre. Vettel comes out of the final corner, and Leclerc, goes quickest, the 132.4. 6/10 quicker than Verstappen, 7/10 up on Hamilton, 8/10 up on Bottas. Perez and Hulkenberg, the other two drivers, who said the lap time. Vettel goes second, 6/10 away from Charles Leclerc. Big lap that from Leclerc, 6/10 ahead of Verstappen, 6/10 ahead of his teammate Vettel. 10 minutes left in this second part of qualifying. Gasly best of the rest at the moment ahead of Perez, Hulkenberg, Stroll, but still another 6 drivers to complete their laps. Sainz goes up into 9th place, not a great lap from him. Ricciardo with a very poor lap actually, so I think he'll have to go again. Well, they'll all go again obviously. Norris goes into 8th spot, Giovinazzi remains slowest, Grosjean goes 11th, and Kevin Magnussen across the line goes 11th, so pushes Grosjean down as well. So at the moment, Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rosso that is
box, we are safe. P2, and there is 10.5, second one.
From
Probably higher than he might have been in a Red Bull.
Yeah. Good job from him, but the field's so ridiculously close right now. Gasly loses 400 and he's down to 10th from 6th. It's just Perez and Norris are on an identical lap to the 1,000, 7th and 8th. They're a full 14 thousandths ahead of Hulkenberg, who's a full 13 thousandths ahead of Sainz. It's just unbelievably close all those times. Magnussen currently out, needs to find a 10th. Grosjean and Stroll need to find a couple of tenths, and Ricciardo has not hooked up that lap very well at all. He's down to 14. Again, 3 tenths and he's in though. So super tight.
Giovinazzi, I think, looks a little adrift in the Alfa Romeo, but apart from him, everyone, as you say, is absolutely in this fight with 8.5 minutes left on the clock. The top 10 at the moment: Leclerc, Vettel, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly, Perez, Norris, Hulkenberg, Sainz, Spencer.
The other thing I would say about the offset strategy that Mercedes is clearly going is it, when you think about it, people often try it, but it doesn't actually work that often. Usually the better, the optimum strategy, the softer tyre followed by the harder tyre, is the one that ends up winning the race. Usually.
Sure, but usually those people have started from.
You like a balance adjust?
I don't know what to do, man. I honestly don't know what to do. Let's add point 2.
The one that started on the soft.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But you don't get many offsets. This doesn't happen very often. That someone starts on a medium compared to a soft.
But wasn't Leclerc the only one who started?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
He was the offset, so the offset lost.
Well, he was the soft
the
option,
ideal,
and everyone else was medium. Yeah,
agreed. But he was the one. He was the different person.
Yeah, again. He was. Yeah. But because we don't see this very often. When was the last time Hamilton was sat there on the grid with a different tyre than a Ferrari or a Red Bull on pole? I don't remember.
I don't have an answer.
Austria, because Leclerc was the man on pole and he was the offset.
Yeah. Is that a trick question?
No, I'm just answering ironically.
7 minutes left of Q2.
I messed that part from Austria up.
7 minutes left on of Q2. It's going to be very, very tight getting into the top 10. The top 5 won't need to run again, so there we go. As you say, Mercedes doing a different thing to Ferrari, but also here you're not. I don't think you're going to be getting into that window either of tyres dying in the way they did in Spa or the way they do in Singapore, because the tyres stay alive a little longer here, right?
It could be that they think this is the fastest way to run the race. It could just be they're clutching at straws and they just think Ferrari are just faster, we have to try something different or we're going to lose.
I'm thinking the 2017 race where Vettel was hounding the back of Bottas in the end. I'm thinking he was on a soft tyre compared to Bottas on a medium.
Let's go down to Claire. She is with George Russell.
Oh, well, George, disappointing for you. You sounded frustrated on the radio as well, saying you hadn't learned anything from Singapore. Is that frustration from you, or was that one of those radio messages where you thought, actually, maybe that was a bit wrong?
It's just one of those radio messages. They play 1 in 100 things I say, and that's the snippet they take. Singapore had a load of traffic on the outlap. The plan this week was not to have that, and we did, but it didn't actually end up compromising us. It was just a bit frustrating at the time, having guys ahead of me who I was trying to get past, guys behind me trying to overtake me, and it was a bit scrappy, but nevertheless, the lap was really good. The car felt good, and our pace was closer than we anticipated.
I was going to say, if you felt strong around here this weekend, you've been in that car now. It's a case for you now, isn't it, to
Kevin, P6 is just like 0.2 seconds ahead, so it's very tight, so I'm sure you can will improve. We'll just figure out this last sector, but it's very, very tight, so you're still very competitive, and we'll box. We have plenty of time.
Okay.
To Claire Cockingham.
Yeah, the classic. That's the one they play of a million radio messages. But yeah, so he said it didn't affect him this weekend. That's the traffic thing he was talking about before. So 4 minutes left on the clock. We're about to have the drivers head out for the second part of qualifying, or the second run of the second part of qualifying. In fact, they're all steaming out together now with 4 minutes left on the clock. So quite early, a bit more sensible than in Monza and the like, as they rejoin the circuit. And we'll see who's going to make it through into the pole position shootout. Out goes Perez, out goes Sainz, followed by his teammate Norris. And we've got 3 minutes 40 seconds left on the clock. And Vettel is heading out again. We'll see if Verstappen, Vettel, Hamilton and Bottas do. Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton and Bottas do. As I say, Vettel out on the soft compound of tyre. He's wanting another lap to get his eye in. Leclerc does head out now as well. So really the question is, Mercedes can now go on the... So I think they did 2 runs in Q1. They went out again in Q1, Mercedes though. So have they got now a set of tyres to use? 3 minutes on the clock, they're still in the pits. Or will that then take away from Q3? Vettel's just been pumped on the pit lane exit by Pierre Gasly. Mercedes are the only cars still in the pits with 2 minutes 50 to go. If they did go again on a set of softs, then this whole strategy track goes out the window and they can improve. But I think they had better race pace yesterday, Mercedes, to the tune of 3 or 4 tenths a lap on the Ferraris. I like this, what they're doing. In theory, Bottas now has left the garage on a set of soft tyres. Doesn't mean he's going to improve on them just yet. But and Hamilton follows him out, so they have got tyres and they are going on the set of soft tyres. But let's see if they improve, because they can now follow suit if they do a flying lap that's quicker than their medium tyre, which will be easily enough to get through. And undercut here, nowhere near as strong and valuable as Singapore. You can overcut here. You can do the overcut on this circuit because the warm-up's a little bit tougher, and if the degradation is very low, particularly if you're on a medium tyre, you can go longer, and actually having your tyre up to temperature with very low deg be quicker than being out on a new different tyre compound and a bit of difficult warm-up. And then
we're in a good position, just do what you need for tyres.
I like the idea of Mercedes, if they don't think they've got the pace for pole, to go for a set of medium tyres. I think this is the perfect situation for them to do that, with Red Bull not in the mix at all. So a minute 30 left on the clock, and big moment for Lance Stroll, bouncing over the curbs on the exit of turn 7, and managed to keep going, but he surely will have lost a decent chunk of time there, Stroll. He's still, he's just lost a bit of time now in the middle sector. Not ideal for the Canadian. Leclerc on his outlap, Vettel second, Verstappen third, Hamilton fourth, Bottas fifth. They're all locked in, but it's the 6th down to 10th that is the positions to fight for. Gasly, Perez, Norris, Hulkenberg and Sainz, the drivers in it at the moment.
And I think Stroll might have ruled himself out with his moment at turn 6. And coming through the final sector, he's 3 tenths down on Carlos Sainz, and doesn't look like he's about to get himself into the top 10. It's all to play for just behind them.
Perez through the final 2 corners, currently in 7th place. He comes across the line, and Perez remains in 7th. No improvement for him, 200 slower than he managed previously. Norris goes up to 6th, so that should see him and the McLaren team through. A good lap there from Lando Norris, his teammate Carlos Sainz.
How do I out that pace was?
Exactly, it was very similar to the other cars on soft.
Listen, what can Daniel Ricciardo do? Because he did not do a good first lap in this second part of qualifying. Can he match his teammate Nico Hulkenberg? He's a couple of tenths away at the moment. Hulkenberg is behind him on circuit. Ricciardo comes out and across the line, and he goes up to 9th place. So that pushes Perez out. Means Gasly's on the bubble. Hulkenberg through the final corner though. Can he get up into the top 10? Oh, he's right on the edge, but I think that's enough. So both Renaults make it through. 9th for Ricciardo, 10th for Hulkenberg, unless Antonio Giovinazzi can do something spectacular in his Alfa Romeo. That will be the top 10. Here he comes across the line, absolutely chucks it and gains a couple of places. So good work there from Giovinazzi, to be honest, because the Alfa Romeo run by the Sauber team. Let's get away with it that way. Looked like they had the slowest car, but he managed to get ahead of Magnussen and ahead of Lance Stroll. So Leclerc, Vettel, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas. None of them improved on their run on the soft tyres. Grosjean, Norris, Sainz, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg the top 10. Eliminated Gasly in 12th, Gasly in 11th, Perez in 12th, Giovinazzi 13th, Magnussen 14th, Stroll 15th.
And that's when the midfield is so close. If you don't improve at the end, you're going to be out. And that was perfect illustration of exactly that. Everyone that improved was through. Everyone that couldn't improve on their first time is out. Gasly was best of that bunch. And after the first run, he's ended up in 11th place, just half a tenth out. But that's the basically make or break right at the death. The times always get quicker, and you've got to just go with it.
I think Magnussen will be the big disappointed one from that session.
Grosjean 6th, Magnussen 14th as to start there, and 4 tenths behind Romain Grosjean. That's a bigger gap. So Magnussen's probably made a mistake on his lap somewhere, and didn't really complete it at all. I think somewhere in the middle sector, Magnussen, that one got away from him. Stroll as well, middle sector for him. Turn 6, that bounce over the curbs, lost him. And in all of that, Giovinazzi actually a pretty good job, just a tenth and a half away in the Alfa Romeo.
Red Bull, Verstappen didn't go for the medium tyre in Q2. Interesting.
I thought they might, because they're again going to be starting out of position. Here's Stroll.
Sorry. Cover that, Lance.
Almost glad to that radio message.
So 15th for Lance Stroll, and he took the apex curve a little bit hard, and that's what sent him a little bit wide towards the exit curve as well, down at turn 6. That was the end of Stroll's session really, and this is what happened to Magnussen. Understeered straight off the road at 7 and lost a heap of time in doing so, and then had a big lock up down at the next.
It used the delta on the in-lap cars, delta negative but close to 0. And we are P8. Hold on mate, we're through to Q3.
Well, and it'll be...
I don't know, you either go with the Mercedes strategy or you go with the Ferrari one, don't you? So the way that they're split right now, Mercedes didn't improve on their soft tyres, they're locked into that medium start.
And maybe if you're 8th on the grid, let's say, for Verstappen, if he qualifies 3rd, you want to be on the soft so you can be a bit racier with the drivers around you. Gasly went off in the same place as Stroll. It's not really. I don't know. I don't really remember seeing people go off there a lot, but maybe I messed that up.
Bit of overdriving maybe as well, right in the final moments there. You know that hundredths of a second are going to make a difference, so you try and find just little bits. And if you're already absolutely on the limit in certain corners, carry a little bit more speed in, and the lap can get away for you. So Gasly, pretty much the same as Stroll. Magnussen went off at the next corner, and all 3 of them making big mistakes. Sergio Perez just didn't improve, and they were joined by Giovinazzi out in that one.
So we will be getting underway in 4 minutes' time with the final part of qualifying, Q3, the battle for pole position. At the moment, it's looking like a battle between the 2 Ferraris. Leclerc was only a tenth quicker than Vettel in that last run. Leclerc found 2 tenths Q1 to Q2. Vettel found half a second, so he's not out of the running by any stretch. And it would be 4 pole positions in a row from Leclerc, which would be mightily impressive. When was the last time someone got 4 pole positions in a row?
End of 2017. Lewis Hamilton. 16.
Yeah.
16. I said that right earlier as well.
I know, I set you up for that as well. I knew you had that in the locker.
It's because you were talking nonsense earlier. End of 16 when he... when do you not? But end of 2016, yeah, Hamilton against Rosberg. He didn't win in the title, but that was the last time someone had 4 pole positions in a row. I think 3 years ago, and Leclerc's looking good for it.
Oh yeah, quite a big scrape coming out of Stroll corner.
Oh, I tell you what, that would have damaged a bit the underside of the car as well. Just straddled the curb, and real big scrape underneath the car. He didn't need to be doing that, Charles Leclerc, at that moment in time. Heading into Q3 now, that can't be looking super smooth and efficient down there on the floor of the car. Now, surely there's a bit of a scuff down there or two.
So that's something that Leclerc will have to deal with a couple of minutes to go before we get the final part of qualifying underway. Best of the rest fight is going to be tight. 2 tenths from Grosjean in 6th down to Hulkenberg in 10th. The two Renaults separated by just 0.03 of a second. So incredibly tight between them. Norris and Sainz separated by... I think that's the mad thing, isn't it? When you look at these gaps in the midfield between teammates, so often they're so tight, and I think that's what exaggerates the Verstappen Red Bull teammate issue, because every other teammate is absolutely... It's not like... I feel like in the 90s, every teammate would be like half a second off at some race. I think, you know, Nigel Mansell in 92 was out qualifying Patrese by like 2 seconds, and you know, stuff like that. Whereas now every teammate is so tight that when a teammates aren't tight, like the Williams drivers, it really stands out.
Yeah, agree. I mean, a second is a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. But back in the 90s, they didn't have data. Data is a key way that the teammates converge, because from the first lap of FP1, you're comparing yourself around the entire lap, your gear choice, your line, your speed, carrying in various parts of the corner, and you see your teammates doing something better than you, turn 5, you just copy them, and you end up sort of both helping each other along. So I think that's, if you get data probably in the 90s, I think you'd find a bit more teammate convergence as well.
Does it take away... Does data take away driver talent?
Yeah, it takes away your innate talent, your innate skill. It doesn't, because you can see that your teammate's doing something. If Vettel can see Leclerc's carrying more speed in at turn 2, and that's where he's finding 1.5, that does not mean that Vettel can do it. It just means that he knows that that's possible in that car. But then the skill of the driver is to then replicate that or even do better.
Q3 begins, the battle for pole position at the Russian Grand Prix. Here on 5 Live Sports Extra. The cars making their way out, some cars making their way out onto the track. Lando Norris, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg. They may well be going out on used tyres in this first run for Q3. But the front runners will be going out on a fresh set. Leclerc has been the quickest man for the first 2 sessions, and his teammate gets to grips with him. Can the Mercedes get into the fight at all? As they rumble now down the pit lane, towards the pit lane exit, to get on with the battle for pole. Mercedes looking to hold their 100% record in Russian Grand Prix, going back to 1913.
So you're the first car out, you can drive this exactly as you want it.
In the new era of Formula 1.
What I say, you were talking nonsense.
You don't like a bit of Willie Scholl?
That's a weird way to answer that one. He wasn't my favourite
pre-war racing driver.
No.
Who was? Dick Seaman?
Was that a joke?
No. Dick Seaman was...
Willie Scholl or Dick Seaman?
Yeah, those are your choices.
What about Nuvolari or Rosemeyer or Caracciola?
They were a bit later than the 1913-14, weren't they?
You said pre-war.
Okay, fine. Sergio Nuvolari, for me, one of the greatest drivers of all time. I'm not denying that.
How do you know that?
Okay, he was his corner entry was superb. The way he balanced it on the... I don't know.
But they're not, you can't... Like,
for me, was the wrong word
you
to
can't
say.
YouTube the 1913 Russian Grand Prix, can you?
For me, was the wrong word to say. I can't say for me, from what I saw of Sergio Nuvolari, he was the greatest of all time, obviously. But a legend in Formula 1. Here we go. 10 minutes to go. And...
technically, he's not a legend in Formula 1.
No, okay. Grand Prix racing. Can I say that? Did he ever race in Formula 1 ever? Did you?
No.
Who was it who was a legend, but then did like 1 or 2 races in 90?
Great, looks a bit down on temperature.
That's out across the line to start a final part of qualifying run. It's his first run. They'll go out, do a lap now, Come back in for a new set of tyres on, and out they go again. Bottas onto the brakes into turn 1. Neat and tidy through there from the Finn. He's the first driver on track, then it's Hamilton, then it's Vettel, then it's Leclerc, who's just coming around the final corner now to start his flyer. Bottas took pole position here in 2018, never been out-qualified in Russia. But then he never had to face Willie Scholl as they come through the middle sector now. Bottas fastest in the first sector.
Big twitch through turn 7 for Bottas. Stroll corner, but Leclerc corner, and whoever else is struggling through that. Well, Bottas had a big oversteer towards the exit, and Vettel's 3 tenths up on Bottas in the first sector. He's the fastest man through so far.
Very, very quick stuff from Sebastian Vettel, but it's not actually a massive margin compared to Bottas. Sometimes it's been 4 or 5 tenths to the Mercedes in that first sector. Bottas coming through turn 13 now, a bit of a correction through there. And now the fastest middle sector has been taken away.
Leclerc matches Vettel, he's 400ths away. So the two Ferraris have got 3 tenths on Bottas, who is quicker in the first sector than Hamilton.
Real traffic ahead and behind. Keep out 3 full bubble and recharge off when you're ready.
And he goes quickest on a 1 minute 32.6. Hamilton is pretty much there or thereabouts, runs very wide out of the final corner and goes quicker by a quarter of a second. Massive final sector from Hamilton, but there goes Vettel to be 2 tenths up on Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc still to come, fastest middle sector, turns through the final corner, the right-hander, out and across the timing beam, and Leclerc's 3 tenths up on Vettel, half a second up on Hamilton. Massive lap from Leclerc. What's Verstappen got? That's the question. Can he get involved in the fight with the Mercedes and the Ferraris? Has a couple of goes at turning into the final corner, and he's only 9 tenths away from Charles Leclerc. Hulkenberg 6, Norris 7, Sainz 8, Grosjean 9, Ricciardo 10. Leclerc has got this in the bag.
Really, really good lap there from Charles Leclerc. And so he wasn't phased by that moment the lap before, down at turn 7. That time, hooked it up, fastest middle sector of qualifying the whole weekend so far. And provisional pole by a big margin, over 3 tenths. Half a second to the Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton there, just a couple of tenths away from Vettel. But Leclerc, once again, Q3, just delivers it. Can Vettel respond? What happened in Singapore last week? Vettel was the man on provisional pole, and Leclerc did a final last hurrah to...
that was a really good lap. We're currently P2.
In sector 2, you were quicker than Hulkenberg, and he was on a new set of tyres.
The last time a Ferrari driver took 4 consecutive poles, Charles Leclerc was 3 years old. That must have been 2001, some such. Schumacher, presumably. So, wow. I can't believe Schumacher didn't take 4 consecutive poles later than 2001. 2004, he must have done. But I believe virtual second. Don't get me wrong. And it's on F1.com. 6 minutes left on the clock then, and very much advantage Leclerc. And not even sure Hamilton's going to be splitting the Ferraris here, even with a bit of a mega lap. We're just getting a replay of Bottas's slide, which would have cost him a bit of time.
Yeah, a little bit there on the exit of 7th. Oversteer for Bottas. Everyone else was running wide and getting over that curve, but Bottas found the issue on the other end of the car. That would have cost him a little bit, but Bottas is a long way adrift. He's 8 tenths from Leclerc. That slide wasn't 8 tenths worth. It might have been a couple of tenths to get him close to Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari have the edge, but we thought they would.
Just check my shifts, because coming down at 3, I'm getting their shifts and I'm getting a lot of oscillating after the shift. Is there a problem? Check my shifts, because coming down at 3, getting their shifts and I'm getting a lot of oscillating after the shift. Is there a problem?
He won way more than that. Looks like 14 or something. But he didn't take pole position that much. He got 3 in a row start of the year. Verstappen was very, very loose through the final corner. Again, fraction of a bit of time there, but At the same time, that would have only brought him closer to Bottas. I'm surprised how, well, I'm not surprised how far away Verstappen is. That's probably what I would have expected sort of coming into the weekend. It sort of makes a bit of sense. But after the pace yesterday, it's surprising.
Verstappen was just slower in Q3 there than he was in Q2, whereas Leclerc has found 6/10. So Ferrari have upped the pace suddenly, and Verstappen hasn't, albeit with a mistake in the final corner. That would have cost him 1 or 2 tenths max. But that's again bringing him close to Bottas. Bottas' mistake to bring him close to Hamilton, but no one's getting close to Charles Leclerc at the moment. The only man that stands between Leclerc and pole position is a mega lap from Sebastian Vettel right now, I think. Mercedes don't look like they've got the pace. Surely Hamilton can't find 6/10 with Leclerc not improving on this final run. But Mercedes knew that. That's why they opted to start on the medium tyre for tomorrow. So we've still got a great race on our hands tomorrow, and we've potentially got a last battle on our hands to qualify now.
I think if Hamilton can split the Ferraris and start on a different compounder, then especially that's a big win for Mercedes. But as you say, actually, is he just going to get done down turn one anyway, even if he splits the Ferrari?
Yeah, he could well do.
But also, Mercedes on the second row of the grid, they will have a nice slipstream from the Ferraris down to turn 2 as well, so that'll help them even though they're on the medium tyre. Whether they've got the grip to hit the brakes as hard as they'd like when they get down there, that's another story. But of all the tracks to start on the second row with a different tyre, this is not a bad one for Mercedes. So the cars head out onto the circuit. Vettel first, then Leclerc, then Verstappen, then Bottas, then Hamilton. That's the order they'll be coming across the line in. As Leclerc looks to take his 4th pole position in a row. The rest of the midfielders are out there already, and in fact Nico Hulkenberg is just starting his flying lap now, with 2 minutes left on the clock, so the time now becomes irrelevant. Everybody will come through and across the line. Hulkenberg starts his flyer down towards turn 1. He's best of the rest as it stands, but they will, all those midfielders will find more pace.
Some work on your front brake temps would be good.
Using top left modifier for turn 1 is also good.
90-degree right-hander, where Alex Albon's session ended earlier in the Red Bull, crashing out of qualifying. He'll be starting at the back of the grid tomorrow. And now, is there pressure here on Vettel? I know there's always pressure, but are we going to read a lot? Are people going to read a lot into this if he's out qualified by his teammate for pole for 3 tenths?
Yep, absolutely.
This would be 8 in a row. He needs to, it might even be 9 in a row. I think he's already on 8 in a row.
Yeah.
So this would be 9 in a row. 4 poles in a row for Leclerc. It would be pole number 6 for Leclerc as well. So Vettel's 1. He's got to try and bounce back here, and he's flying down towards turn 2. The DRS open. Can he find a good chunk of time to pose his teammate to pole position? Here he comes in through turn 3. His teammate Leclerc is coming down into turn 1 now as well. Vettel through the right-hander of turn 4, gets right out over the curves. This isn't looking good for Vettel. We'll get his first sector split in a moment, and he's matched Leclerc's first sector to the nearest 1,000th of a second. But Leclerc's up by more than a 10th of a second in sector 1.
10th and a half to Leclerc in the first sector then, and first sector's always been a good one for Vettel, and
Yeah, you can push.
Is currently very, very strong. What are the Mercedes doing?
they are coming through the first sector now, and Bottas doesn't improve. He's miles away, nearly half a second from Leclerc. What about Hamilton? Hamilton is improving, but is actually slower than Bottas even with that.
Yeah, so this is looking very, very good for Ferrari. Max Verstappen's first sector is 2 tenths quicker than the Mercedes, so has he got a shot at making up a couple of places? Vettel's middle sector is no good either, whereas Leclerc is absolutely flying. This could be a half a second pole position here for Charles Leclerc. Here comes Vettel through the final corner, and the 4 times world champion cuts the timing beam and does improve in the end. A 32.0, but here comes Leclerc across the line, and he's quicker by 4 tenths. 4 tenths now qualifying his teammate Sebastian Vettel. Verstappen goes third in the Red Bull. Can the Mercedes get into the fight, get ahead of Verstappen. It doesn't really matter because Verstappen's got a 5-place grid drop. Hamilton across the line. Second, he split the Ferraris. Hamilton has split the Ferraris on the grid for the Russian Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas, meanwhile, has pitted. Bottas has pitted, so he's made a mistake and he's a second adrift of pole position. So Leclerc on pole for the Russian Grand Prix. 4 tenths ahead of Hamilton, who's squeaked out Vettel by 200ths. Verstappen 4th, Bottas 5th, Sainz best of the rest in 6th, Hulkenberg 7th, out qualifying his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, Norris 8th, Grosjean 9th, and Ricciardo completes the top 10.
Wow, Leclerc, 4 poles in a row, just monumental. He's so good in Q3 at just getting that job done with no mistakes ever. Again, 2 laps good enough for pole for Leclerc. And this is the sound of what happened to Bottas, just a bit of a slide through 13th, but it wasn't a special lap from the word go, that one. So Bottas, no improvement. It's the pole man.
The last sector. You've seen that. All charge, and you have P1, Sebastian P2. Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
So, 2 things. Firstly, it's moments like that where you've got to not trust your engineer, but they're saying Sebastian P2 and he's just not. But anyway, he was at the time, but they didn't even, wait. Anyway, the second thing is, he was a bit messy in the final sector. He was sliding all the way out to the final corner. I thought that was going to be 5 or 6 tenths to Vettel. In the end, it was only 4. We're getting a replay of Vettel getting all out of shape at turn 4, but yeah, that could have been bigger for Leclerc. And Leclerc crosses the line, and he's, really annoyed with his lap. Yeah, it's just put him on pole by 4 tenths. You were saying how 4 tenths, we were talking earlier, that's a huge margin in relation to Verstappen.
The last sector. You've seen that. All charge, and you have P1, Sebastian P2. Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
But it's not, he's just chuffed to split the Ferraris in a car that's not as quick around this track.
So for the 4th race in a row, Charles Leclerc hauls himself out of the Ferrari on pole position, and enjoy it while you can, because I start to feel we might get bored of this. In 10 years' time, we're all going to be sick of this middle-aged Monegasque superstar, but now he's the new exciting thing on the block, and it's a real thrill to watch him out there doing another fantastic lap, taking another superb pole position. And at some point, I want to have the discussion about Marcus Ericsson, because was that Leclerc's teammate last year? Yeah, and so if he's doing Vettel by 4 tenths, Ericsson's looking alright in all of this. But anyway, that's not the conversation for now.
What? Is he coming back next year? Marcus Ericsson?
In the Ferrari, if Vettel leaves. Anyway, let's hear from our pole sitter. We'll hear from our top 3, Leclerc, Hamilton and Vettel. Charles Leclerc talking to 2009 world champion Jenson Button down on the starting grid in front of the fans that you can hear applauding.
Getting there, man.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for the hard work.
Starting in 3rd place on the grid
for tomorrow's Russian Grand Prix, which you can hear on BBC Radio 5 Live, gets underway at 12 in the UK. And let's hear now from Charles Leclerc with the Jenson Button.
Wow. What a dominant performance all of the way through practice, yesterday, today, qualifying. You really are on a roll.
Yeah, car felt amazing. It definitely feels great to be back on pole, but I don't know if it's the best track to start on pole. The straight is very long after the start, so tomorrow the start will be very important as always, but here probably even more because of all the straight length.
That's still the best place to be in. But the last person that scored 4 pole positions for Ferrari was Michael Schumacher. That must make you feel pretty special.
Yeah, it definitely feels very, very special. But yeah, I don't really want to think about those stats for now. I just want to focus on the job. There's still a long way to go to tomorrow, but it's definitely a good start. We've been competitive all weekend long, and the race simulation seems positive too, so it's looking good for tomorrow.
Excellent, well, congratulations.
Lewis,
How you doing?
Good?
Yeah, well, I must say, all the way through qualifying, obviously the Ferraris have had the upper hand, but you, as always, pulled the lap out at the end there and got the best out of the car.
I'd say it was a tough qualifying session because these guys have some crazy speeds on the straight. So they go to another level. You know that whole party mode you talked about us having? They have something else beyond that. So jet mode. But nonetheless, I gave it absolutely everything I had at the end, and the team did such a great job to just tinker and push forward. And I'm so glad it came together. I wasn't expecting to get on the front row, that's for sure. So yeah, I'm really happy with it nonetheless.
Yeah, and the great thing for you guys, also you have the medium tyres for the start of the race, so it looks like you knew they would be quick in qualifying, so you've gone for a slightly different strategy for the race.
Yeah, well, we know that they're on a slightly lower drag level this weekend, plus they have that power, so we've got to try something. You've seen the last couple of races we've been behind kind of all the way, so we're fortunate enough to opt for another strategy. I think the team's done a really good job with putting us in that position. It's a long way down to turn one, so it's not always the best for starts on the harder tyre, but I'm going to try and tow the life out of Charles if I get the chance, but it's going to be hard because they got good starts as well. So.
Excellent, well we look forward to it. Sebastian, not the easiest qualifying, I'm sure. Q1 was pretty tricky, one little mistake.
Dude, we're up P9, good job man, good job.
Good job everyone going into Q3. So a bit disappointed about P9 because I think that's the maximum of the car. Good job everyone.
Good luck man, good luck.
What are the gaps?
2 tenths to Norris ahead.
2.5 tenths up to Hulkenberg ahead of him. I don't have him. This one dude, not in this car. Good luck man, good luck. Good job everyone, good job.
That's good to be back in Q3.
In a straight line as well, so for us it's going to be great watching, but it's going to be pretty crazy for you guys, I think, into turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, first you need a good start, then you worry about the rest sort of thing. So let's see, obviously there's potentially an advantage if you are behind, but I guess if you're behind you always tend to say that, so we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Seb.
Former F1 driver Jensen Button speaking to the top 3 drivers ahead of the Russian Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc takes his 4th pole position in a row ahead of the Grand Prix tomorrow. But what can Hamilton do from second? He split the Ferraris in qualifying. Let's see what he can do in the race tomorrow. My thanks to Jack and Jodie and of course Andrew as well in the commentary box. The race tomorrow, we're on air from 11:30 on BBC Radio 5 Live and online as well. The race gets underway.
I know we qualified in P8. Wasn't a great lap. The first half. My bad.